Today I want to show you how to use Crumb fabric appliques in a simple wall hanging project. Hi, I'm Jamieson-Hirst from Chatterboxquilts.com. And before we get into today's video, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified the next time I release a new video. Now what I want to share with you today is this little project I made, and I was using these appliques that I made from Crumb fabric in it. And if you don't know what Crumb fabric quilting is, or Crumb quilting, or however you want to call it, you can look in the description below because I'll put a link to a previous video I did where I showed you how to make that fabric. And I also have another video where I showed you 3 different blocks you can make with that Crumb fabric. One of them was, although it's not really a block, it was appliques, and that's what these little hearts are appliques I made from the Crumb fabric I had. Now, I wanted to show you what to do with them. And so what I've got here is a small wall hanging project. And if you're interested in the dimensions of the background fabric and the borders and the backing and batting and everything, look in the description below because I'll put it all there for you. So these 3 little hearts were actually cut out using my AccuQuilt Go. So one of the dies I have is 3 different sized hearts. So that was pretty easy to cut out. And actually, you may notice that my quilting looks a little interesting if you look close, because the quilting was actually done before I put the appliques on the project. And I did not only free motion quilting applique, yes, free motion quilting. Well, that'd be a real new technique, wouldn't it? Not only did I do free motion quilting, but I also used the Janome circular sewing attachment to do some of the details using decorative stitches on the background of this project. And I have a video on how I did that. So again, look in the description below for a link to that video. Now you may wonder, why did I do the free motion quilting and the decorative stitches first before I put the appliques on the project? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's easier, okay? So it's much easier to do the free motion quilting or whatever quilting you're going to do on your background first and then add your appliques to it. By doing that, I don't have to worry about going around the appliques if I don't want to stitch over them, because a lot of times we don't want to stitch into the applique, but that means you have to kind of, bob and weave your way around the appliques. By doing the quilting first, I avoided all of that, and it worked out really well. So my next step is, of course, to get the edges of these appliques done. And these little appliques are stuck to my background here. I used seam-align glue, or you could use a glue stick, to stick them on temporarily so that they'll stay in place before you actually finish the edges. And if you're wondering what seam-align glue is, guess what? I've got a video on how to use it to keep appliques down on your background fabric, as in a situation like this. So my next step is, of course, to finish the edges. And I have lots of different choices on what I can do, but I tend to default to a certain one. And that's using a zigzag stitch. So a narrow zigzag stitch to go around my appliques to keep them down. Now I am using red thread today. The nice thing about using Crumb fabric is it typically has a lot of different colors in it, makes it really easy to choose a thread to finish off the edges of your applique. You could pick whatever you want. I could use black in this case. I'm going with red because I hope you'll see it a little bit better. So I have just chosen the zigzag stitch on my machine, and I have adjusted the width and the length of it a little bit to suit the size of the appliques. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with the smaller one in the middle here. We won't start with the smallest one, but we'll start with the middle one. And so I'm just going to drop my needle down here. This particular zigzag stitch starts at the right hand side and it goes back and forth. So I know by dropping at the edge of my applique, it's going to be the right place to start. At least I hope it is. Keep your fingers crossed for me. Okay, so we're going to start here. And that's way too fast. When you're going and doing the zigzag stitches to finish the edge, you want to take it slow. I'm going to be adjusting as I go along. I want these stitches to lie perpendicular to my applique. So just take your time. And when I come down to the corner here, I could taper down if I wanted to. I'm being lazy today and I'm actually just using my ability to make these to make them narrower, not as wide, just to get down in that area down there. points are always the toughest. Okay, and sometimes I actually use, I think I need one more stitch in here. Sometimes I will use my hand wheel to place that stitch exactly where I want it to be. It's not cheating. At least I don't think it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go back again to where I was at. Good, okay. All right, so we've got one done. I've got a few stray threads here that I can just clip off. Sometimes you get that. So that's one done. So I'm going to do the other two now. I don't mind the width and length on this particular size of applique. When I come here, I might make the length a bit longer. I might make the width wider. That's really the thing I'm wanting to do there. And when it comes to the little one, I will probably turn everything to a shorter stitch length and definitely not quite as wide. So it'll be in proportion to those appliques. So let me get those done. I'll show you what it looks like. So now I've finished stitching all of the applique edges down so you can see what it looks like. And I did adjust the stitch width and length for the different sizes of the hearts, especially the small one. I used a very narrow and width as far as the zigzag stitch, and also shortened the length up quite a bit on it as well. And then I did the opposite on the big one. So you want to make sure that you adjust the width and length on your stitches to suit the size of your applique pieces. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to share it with your quilting friends. And for more helpful quilting information, go to my website at www.chatterboxquilts.com.